beautiful people. It's very difficult, if not even impossible, to conceptually convey to you what liberation is like. And still, we play this game of spirituality. This object that is somewhere to be attained in the future. That it will come into our life and finally fix everything. Put everything together as we believe it to be originally intended. What a belief that is. So we know something, don't we? This is so very hard to put in words. It is indeed beyond words. Difficult to accept for some who experience great suffering that there are beings who just wake up. Now I'm teaching all those meditations and yogas. Give people more stuff to do, don't I? These are just a higher level of the dream, those yogas. Energy is a dream. All dimensions are a dream. But of what? So we're dreaming on, if you will, a deeper level, a spiritual level, but it's still not liberation. How many of you have meditated for long times? You still have not mastered your thoughts. That's the story, you know. Story of the ego self. And even speaking of the ego self is so deceiving. Because speaking of the ego self, of the lower self, creates the idea that it actually exists. By speaking about it, we make it real even though it's not. We make the dream as real as it gets. But the phenomenon of the ego is just the temporary experience of identifying with an object. That's all. Doesn't matter if that object is a house, a romantic relationship, travels, a CV, accomplishments, money, or if it is a monk's robe or a yogi's attire. Still a dream. So one can practice for decades trying to master the mind, control the mind, stop the flow of thought, but it never works. And then there are those who sit down and they just let go and wake up in an instant, like struck by lightning. And in that moment, knowing that it cannot be put into words and it is futile to attempt so. So all that is left to do, if someone asks, how did you get into that state? It's already a very confusing question. There is no I in that state. There is no I that gets into that state. It's the letting go of the I that is the state. That brings about the state that was already there as a background, but now it becomes the foreground and the ego becomes the background. How does one convey such an experience? Usually by speaking about it in negative terms, in negating terms, in indirect terms, by saying what it is not. So we're telling you it's not the mind. It's not your emotions. It's not your body. It's not any object of this world, because this world is a dream that you're dreaming. And all the objects that appear in your life, they exist as belief structures in your inner self. But still there is a belief that some sort of seminar or some sort of guru or master will bring about your liberation, but it won't happen. It's not that the masters don't exist. They do. Yes, they are here. Those who have attained liberation authentically, for whom it's not just a story, not just another achievement, but the letting go of all need for all of that. But can they convey it? Not with words, but they will try many ways that are not words. So the masters watch you on your travels. And they're watching, and they see how you enjoy the bitter sweetness of the ego illusion that you have created for yourself. That you love when you get high of experiences, of great sex, traveled, accomplishments. And how you also get high of the bittersweet feeling of losing things, of not being able to hold on to things. You see, that's the play. And the play is hard to get. We're saying, I need a long time to rid myself of ego. I have so much spiritual practice to do, so much purification, so much sadhana. You have to do the shadow work before I can let go of my ego. But it's simply the game of saying, divine self, I'm playing hard to get. Play with me. And the divine self says yes. Slowly I will take your illusions away, and it's going to hurt tremendously. Because you're playing hard to get. See, enlightenment is not an option. It's going to happen, but you can delay it as much as possible. You can postpone it from lifetime to lifetime, you see. Sometimes even the very giving up on enlightenment brings it about. Stopping the quest for it. Stopping the need for a quest. See, trying to stop one's thought is a noble quest, isn't it? Oh, how the ego delights in that idea. Maximum control. And there, those meditators, they sit and they want to stop their thoughts. They want to stop the waterfall, stop the river. But it's impossible. You cannot stop thoughts. And when you realize that you cannot stop thoughts, the only thing that is left is to allow them, to not fight them any longer. Oh, and then that miracle happens. Tabula rasa, right? The board is wiped clean in an instant, as if lightning strikes. And still you might go back to this illusion of, well, I try to find myself in the clouds, but you're the sky. The sky will always be there, no matter if the clouds are there or not. Sometimes you hear this thunder rumbling in the sky. You might see a storm. I'd see dark clouds. And another day you barely see clouds, or very white, beautiful, puffy clouds, you see. And still there is the quest for clouds. Another thought object. But you're not the clouds of your mind, which are your thoughts. You are the sky. The awareness. Nowadays, many people speak about consciousness. But even consciousness is not primary. Awareness is. Consciousness is born of the interplay of awareness and the dream that the awareness is having. It's a process of individualization and coming to wisdom. Yes, that is there. And yes, we experience it as an element in time, but at some point, time doesn't serve us any longer, and we're done playing hard to get. Some of you have talked to me. Many others will speak to me at some point, to some other teacher. That's all good, you see. And there will be stories of what you cannot let go of. But you cannot get enlightened because this is hard, that is hard, this keeps you trapped. But it's all a game of playing hard to get. And the masters know, the teachers know, we know deep down. We watch, we're like, when are you ready? Sometimes we poke a little bit with a stick in the ribs. You ready? But we know we can't bring it about for you. We can only invite you to stop playing hard to get. To ask you to be done with further experiences. Your worldly mind will say, I need more seminars, meet more gurus. Go to Tibet, go to Nepal, go to India, go to Japan, whatever it is. It's always the searching of the answer in an object of experience. And often the external travel is a metaphor for the inner travel that is not occurring. For the creator of reality is the awareness that watches all from within. But to seek it in some sort of object is still the game of playing hard to get. Some of you say you still need to be of service. This world needs saving. This world is full of beings who are playing hard to get. Don't disrupt their play. Don't try to save them. You only make their ego stronger. They have more reason to play hard to get. Because someone tries to take their ego away from them. But the ego just doesn't exist. See, when you watch a waterfall, you're not caught up in the waterfall. You might even be thoughtless. You might watch an ocean and watch the waves coming by. You might not even have the concept of waves in your mind. But with thoughts, there you cause trouble. Seeing a wave in the ocean is not a problem. Not at any point are you confusing yourself for the wave. When you watch a river and there are objects in the river, drifting by in the water. Maybe some wood drifting in the water from a fallen tree. Maybe there are some animals passing by. Maybe you see fish, or maybe you see even an alligator or a little fishing boat going by, and all of that is not a problem. But if it's thought, you create a big problem. If the river that is your mind is moving objects of thought pass by you, you cling to them, and you want to call them I, and because you want to call them I, the suffering begins. But the answer is so simple and so direct. Watch the I. Watch the concept of I and ask it, who's I? And at some point you realize there is no one. There is no I. It doesn't exist. That's the Satori. That's how the Japanese would say it. Or moksha. Samadhi. When you realize that no object is you. Not at all. Just let the objects pass by. And at some point you realize the human is an object too. The mind is an object too. The thoughts are objects. Even the emotions are objects of experience. And when I cling to them and call them I've created a subject, and now the suffering begins. Can I sit at the river, like Siddhartha, in Hermann Hesse's writing at the end, after he played the game of life? And much did he did try much, didn't he? He learned the game of love from a famous prostitute. He became a merchant and had many objects. He became a man practicing renunciation, living in the forest, letting go of all objects and suffering, making himself starve and all that. And none of that led to the liberation. Until he was finally done, could sit at the river and say, I'm done clinging to objects. I'm done clinging to liberation as an experience. I can say I have accumulated enough experience and let go of enough experience, because experience you can never hold on to. And once you can accept the passing by of all things, what is not passing, what is not moving, it becomes clear. Though the clouds move through the sky does not move. So many things pass through your mind, but the awareness that is witnessing mind does not move. So your need for movement, your need for spiritual practice, your need for liberation as an object is playing hard to get, is delaying over and over, delaying your enlightenment. And there's nothing wrong with it. You're allowed to play human. You are allowed to immerse yourself, because the ego is nothing but immersion. Being immersed in the experience. Confusing this holographic movie here for yourself and calling it I. Confusing yourself for the thought of I in the mind. But there is no I, it's just a thought. So when you're done with enjoying suffering, then liberation can strike you like lightning. Hit you out of nowhere, instantaneously. And the ego is gone. It's a snapping of a finger. Realization is sudden, total. But why is there so much to practice, right? If liberation itself is easy. That's a tricky question. Because the one who has realized who he is still experiences its actualization within time. Oh, and it's very tempted. When the awareness brings to you the past life memory, the past life traumas, and turns it into wisdom and shares great knowledge, it's very tempting to create a new I, a spiritual ego. And then you lose yourself again for a little while. Back and forth we go, playing ping pong. Playing hard to get again. We're creating new ideas of having to be of service. Having to work off our karmic debt, but a master doesn't work off his karmic debt or her karmic debt. They don't do it. They just say they're done. When they say they are done, grace will come in and resolve all the karma for them. They will experience it. Oh, and a lot of tears will be shed, that's for sure. But grace will bring the answer to them. They don't have to struggle for answers anymore. They just sit down. You could call it meditation, you can call it whatever you will, but they just let go. And all the answers come to them, the knowledge, the wisdom. The angels, the master, the deities come to the realized one and they just share effortlessly. Oh, how will the realized one make himself feel guilty then? Do I deserve it? Oh, playing hard to get again, playing ping pong again, you see? Oh, sometimes I'm awake, sometimes I'm not. And when we have even played that game enough, and we have reached that point then we're just there, just being there, no effort. Then we reside in the heart, not in the mind. And we know what to say, what to do in every moment, because we are one with all that is, and we know all that is. And we act from all that is. And we cannot create karma because we act from all that is. Cannot create further suffering. Oh, but when we use the mind, when we prioritize the mind, oh, how quickly do we forget then? But if we are in the heart and speak from the heart, the mind follows. The mind becomes the instrument of expression, but not a mansion in which you trap yourself. So to reside in the heart, to say I'm done with these games of pride, of narcissism, of having to attain it, having to achieve it, because in the past my parents might not have loved me, or in my past life I wasn't loved by everybody, and now I think I need to attain it, hard work, show perfection, show mastery to the people. Still playing hard to get. To be no one is effortless. To be someone costs a lot of effort and energy and a lot of struggle, and there is the point where struggle just doesn't appeal anymore. Then you stop struggling. You stop struggling with the mind, and suddenly there is no mind. There's no person, there's no time, there's just... See? Cannot be put in words. Contemplate about that, my friends, but don't contemplate too much. Be well.